Hey guys, what is up? Roshi is here. I totally didn't take my hoodie off and put a hat on for this deck tech. I totally recorded this on different days. Nothing to see here. That aside, this is the deck tech for my Brewer's Ball list. This one is the Go Big, No Bigger Than That. We're playing Jarrall Worldpyre. I'm going to go over what my card choices are, why I made them. If you're interested in seeing more content like this, please toss me a subscribe. If there's any decks you want to see me build, or anything you want me to play with, or any changes you'd make, toss them in the comments, hop on my Discord, hop on my stream. Those are good places to voice that. And if you like this video, throw it a like. Enjoy. Alright, so this is Jarrall Worldpyre. This is the deck I probably should have played in the summer. There was an expedition qualifier, or it was the summer challenge, I think, and I ended up doing very poorly. I probably should have played this deck. It was my best Worldpyre deck at the time. It's very unique, and it's pretty cool to play. At the time when I originally crafted this deck, there was a lot of mono Primal going around. So this deck kind of looks to go over the top of mono Primal while still having game against aggro and more aggressive strategies. And you'll just naturally go over the top of most decks in the format by being a Worldpyre deck. And we just got lots of ways to flip through our deck and draw cards. And once you've stabilized the board, it's kind of hard to lose the game with this deck. So it's fun to play. Lots of card draw, it's basically all in on surviving early, and then once you've gotten there, you're just going to come over the top with 8 of the Hoorus and Soul's Rests. We'll take a look at the cards. You might find this is somewhat similar to a lot of Worldpyre decks I've played, but it's very unique in other ways. So let's take a look. So, as the namesake of the deck, we're playing for Jarrall. We're playing a lot of spells in this deck, 39. So we have a very good chance. It's slightly over, if my math isn't completely horrible, it's about 50%, give or take, depending on if you've, where you're at in the game. You have about a 50% chance of flipping a spell, which is pretty solid. And a lot of the spells we can be flipping are pretty high impact, and that aside, Jarrall's final ability when you've got 8 Primal is pretty fun when you're dealing 12 damage to your opponent's face, or with Soul's Rest, it's obviously crazy. So once you've gotten to 8 Primal, you can actually do some really spicy things. Like, let's say you've got 6 power, you can sandbag your Jarrall, and let's say you have at least 6 power, you have a Worldpyre in play, and you have a Jarrall. You can play your Jarrall, and then Worldpyre in a Soul's Rest, donk your opponent for 8, and then untap and have your Jarrall there, and potentially hit your opponent for even more. And if you have multiple Soul's Rests, you'll just keep hitting your opponent for 8, which you'll quickly blow through their Aegis and blow through their health real fast with Jarrall, especially if you're able to combo it like that. Next up for the creatures, we have Rhymescale Draconis. This is basically just a removal spell that we can fetch with Volatility. It's not as good as Shenra Speaks or 8 of the Hooru, or even Soul's Rest, really, but the fact that we can fetch all of these with Volatility gives it some value. And just being a big derpy dragon sometimes is what you need to close out games. Putting Rhymescale Draconis into play, oftentimes your opponent might be playing around board wipes, or they're playing around whatever, or maybe you just need something and they're attacking you and you need something that comes down and it's gonna deal with everything that attacked you that didn't have endurance and then be able to block afterwards. So, not like, sometimes you'll play a board wipe and then we'll just play like a charge minion and keep the pressure on, whereas Rhymescale comes down and it'll just negate all of their stuff they attacked with or anything stunned, and then be able to block, or they have to kill it or something. And Either way, that's fine. That's going to slow your opponent down. And it's just a really excellent card to have access to in Expedition. For Stone Smelt Dragon, this is a card that you could probably cut at this point, but at the time, Backbreaker was more common, Grodov's Burden was more common. If you expect to see big relics or even mirror matches with Worldpyre, it's nice to have access to Stone Smelt Dragon, but it's not really something you need a ton of. But like I said, just having access to it is cool. Some decks are playing a lot of relics, and you'll randomly match up against them and just absolutely decimate them with Stone Smelt Dragon. And also has the added bonus of having basically a 2-turn clock if you're paying 7 each turn. And it's not that hard to see a board state where that could be good. Now, it's not crazy by any means, but a 7 power 5/5 with flying is just fine. And if it's blowing up a Backbreaker or a Worldpyre or a Grodov's Burden, that's pretty solid too. Also, it's volatility fodder. Moving on, Permafrost and From Elements make up our early game removal package. With From Elements, actually, we can turn it on later on, and Otherworldly Visitor just really pops off in this deck. We've got lots of Silexes, creating treasures, petitions, just, I mean, even all these cheap spells. So it's not that far out to have, like, maybe a Jarrall on the board, or you have the 2 bodies from this, and you can really, or maybe you've got some 8 of the Hooru birds or whatever, you can really close out a game real fast with Otherworldly Visitor and some pump. Now, oftentimes, this deck is pretty light on creatures, so sometimes your first Otherworldly Visitor isn't going to be great. It's going to come down, and it's going to make a 0/0 Ravenous Worm. But the more important part of it is whenever you cast a spell, it buffs your whole team, and if you do have like a Jarrall in the Void or something, then it's going to create 2 bodies that can block with, and later on in the game, From Elements stops being as good, so it's nice, like, even if it's not epic in this deck, like, it's not going to be huge. The fact that we can pump it by just casting a bunch of spells and can turn our, like, cheap removal into, like, actual gas, or at least some sort of board presence in the mid and late game, is pretty nice. And it goes a long way towards making this deck have a lot of stopping power in the later phase of the game. We are playing a transpose market, so for our options, we have Surso's Choice. Being able to instant speed, deal 2 damage is great. My TV just turned itself on, sorry about that. Yeah, so Surso's Choice, being able to deal 2 damage at each unit at fast speed, or you gain Aegis and 6 health. Sometimes you just need that health, and back when Mono Primal was more popular, being able to use Transpose to give yourself Aegis at fast speed, and then Surso's Choice to also, again, give yourself Aegis, really helps you play around a lot of what the mirror match or, like, Channel the Tempests. Some decks only try and kill you with Channel the Tempest, or they're, like, trying to cast Channel the Tempest against you a few times. So even though they're still going to draw the cards, being able to just stop that damage, they might not have enough damage to kill us. Or it might buy us time because maybe they were expecting to just finish the game, and then now they're still drawing the cards, but they're not actually killing you. So you're able to have more time to draw into our more powerful threats and kind of come over the top of your opponents. Furnace Mage, summon, kill an enemy attachment. Pretty straightforward. We could potentially play Burglarize here, or something else, just some other Relic Hate, but it's easier for us to cast Furnace Mage in this deck, whereas Burglarize we would have to Worldpyre into play, and Furnace Mage leaving behind a body means that it can block, so it's not completely useless against, like, Shrine decks where, like, maybe we don't even care about recasting the Shrine or whatever. Being able to slam down the Mage and have it block something, or slam down the Mage, blow up a Backbreaker or a Grodov's Burden, and then have it, maybe they play another Backbreaker, and at least now we've got a body blocking our face from taking damage. So it's pretty useful. being a 4/3 is actually pretty strong, so it'll trade with quite a bit. It'll trade with, you know, any of your opponent's early plays. It'll trade with Broker, so that's pretty sweet. Kenna, I just kind of realized that it would be pretty easy for us to cast Kenna in this deck, and he's just a really good way to beat up aggro. Slamming her down and just killing their best guy and then just having a blocker for the rest of the game is a good way to turn the corner. This deck does not need Worldpyre to win. It might seem like it does, but we're actually able to cast all of our big bombs in the deck. So oftentimes we're just trying to like gain control of the board. So we may not actually want, like against like a turbo aggro deck, maybe we don't have time to go for Worldpyre on 4. Like there are some decks that will just kill you. Like let's say you're on the draw and you're playing against aggro. They might just get you to a point where you're screwed on turn 4 if you waste a turn playing Worldpyre. So in situations like that, Kenna can be a good option, or even Surso's choice, to make sure you live long enough. It has the added bonus of also just being a 4/5 with flying means you can just win the game with it later on. It combos pretty hilariously with Jarrall if you ever get to that stage too. Every time you ping someone with Jarrall's ability, it counts as hitting the enemy player with a creature. So you cast 5 spells and Kenna's turned on, and drawing a spell from your void at that point should close out the game. Silverblade Menace is also another nod to all those big, heavy spell-based decks. Or if this deck is ever popular enough that you get a mirror match, or even other Worldpyre decks, we can actually, unless we've played a Forbidden Research on Shadow, we have no way to hardcast this. So this is a card for like the ultra late game. Don't grab this early because you can only put it into play with Worldpyre, or if we grab Shadow with Forbidden Research. So just keep that in mind. There isn't a Shadow symbol in this deck. There's no way to get that to Shadow. So this is only there to just close out games against really spell-heavy decks. And then last but not least, it is a Worldpyre deck. We're playing Worldpyre. So that's the transpose market. Moving along, we've got Petition to help smooth out our draws, get influence in the factions we don't have, and that could be pretty sweet. And it just smooths out your game. Volatility giving us access to a big pile of card draw. We've definitely hedged to have a lot of hits for this card. It's not out of the question for us to be hitting with 2 or 3 or maybe even 4 if you get lucky with all of our dragons and then Savage Incursion and up here. That's that's a lot of hits. We've got 21 cards we can hit off of in the main deck, and that's more than enough to consistently use Volatility to just completely juice up our hand. And you can also use it to hit Wrath of Kyphus, which will give you more abilities to get to that 4 power, or be able to start hard casting things even as the game goes on. Turn to Seed being one of the best primal removal spells we have access to. It also doubles as giving you a way to pop your opponent's Aegis if they have it. So sometimes we don't really care as much about getting all the stuff in their hand turned into seeds. We just want to use, Turn to Seed to maybe pop Aegis and then kill them off with Silverblade Menace or something. So that can be cool. Wisdom of Elders and Forbidden Research are kind of our ways to just flip through our deck and draw cards, while Forbidden Research has the upside of giving us influence, and we make use of both influence. The Justice can be used to hardcast or Shenra Speaks or 8 of the Hooru. We do have one Justice symbol we can petition up, but Forbidden Research can kind of help smooth that out. And sometimes what we'll do is we'll cast on turn 4 of Forbidden Research and try and guarantee a turn 5 Shenra Speaks. So that's an option you have access to. And then Savage Incursion, I just wanted another really just top-end gas that we can cast. And I wanted to have access to it in the main deck because our market only lets us have 4-drops. And there's not really a lot of 4-drops that just give you a lot of card draw. So I just put this card in the main deck. Usually it's a sideboard card, but the fact that we can fetch it with Volatility and it being basically a win the game on its own kind of card kind of spoke to me. And it can also just kill something too, which you know, sometimes people forget about the 3 damage, but you know, 5 power, kill some weenie or something, and then draw 3 is just fine. And if it's ever making 3 dragons, that's insane. Genra speaks, being able to silence and kill stuff like Ikaria is awesome. And just it's the only harsh roll we have in the format other than Equalize, so we're definitely running it. Wrath of Kaifas, talked about this, but you can also use this to pop Aegis, which is sweet, and refill your hand. Or you can use it to just hit your power drops early on and make sure you're curving out, which is nice. The fact that we hit it with Volatility, as I mentioned, is great as well. And then Soul's Rest and Aid of the Hooru, these are just standard cards. I feel like between Shenra Speak, Soul's Rest, Aid of the Hooru, and Transpose, those are just the staples of any Worldpyre deck. And you definitely want to include them if you can. Oftentimes, if you're playing a more budget version, maybe you play Broker in your Broker in the main deck instead of Aid of the Hooru, and you put an Aid of the Hooru in your market. But I prefer having access to main deck Aid of the Hooru. It's just that important of a card that I don't want to have to wait potentially quite a bit of turns before I'm able to cast it. I want Aid of the Hooru coming down on turn 6 as many games as possible, as that usually just wins you the game. And with our power base being the way it is, we're all but guaranteed, as long as we've played 6 power, to have the influence to hardcast our Aid of the Hooru. For the power base, aside from these 3 Cobalt Waystones, everything's double power. And we have a very heavy focus on Primal. There's a few exceptions, like these symbols and Seed of Impulse are our non-primal sources, because we need as many ways to turn Jarrall on. And we have access to 8 Silexes here, which is nice. It's always a nice perk of playing a Worldpyre deck, is you get a ton of Silexes. And all of our Silexes also give us Primal, which is sweet. Between our symbols, our Silexes are going to be coming into play untapped most of the time. And that'll give you some consistency on those turns where, you know, maybe you're trying to play turn 4 Worldpyre. So that's the list. I think it's fun, and see how it does. Thank you for watching my Brewer's Ball Go Big, No Bigger Than That deck tech. This is had a lot of fun playing Jarrall Worldpyre. As you can see, this list is spicy. I think we have a good chance of putting ourselves in one of the devs' hands for this list. Please toss a like on that. If you like this video, give it a like. If you want to see anything from me or any exciting lists, I've been keeping a running list, I call them bounties, I guess, at this point, of decks I need to brew. So let me know. Comments, Discord, on my Twitch stream, hop in, give me some bounties to work on. I'll try and make it happen. And I've got a running list, so I plan on going through all of them at some point. And if I do and I use your list, I'll be sure to give you a shout out. So look forward to seeing what you guys throw my way, and have a good day.